This video is about the mom stood near the open market and a rich stranger returned her lost scarf. If this story touches your heart, please mention where you are watching from in the comments. Please like the video and share your thoughts in comments. The late morning sun poured down over the bustling open market, casting a warm glow on the vibrant stalls that lined the cobbled street. Fresh produce glittered in the light, flowers swayed gently in the breeze, and the air was filled with the rich scent of spices and baked goods. Amid the chaos, Ellen Carter stood by a stall overflowing with ripe strawberries, her fingers absent-mindedly grazing over the soft fabric of a scarf draped over her shoulder. Ellen was a single mother, her life a mosaic of busy mornings and quiet evenings spent after her daughter, Mia, fell asleep. She had learned to navigate life's complexities with a determined grace, but today a shadow of worry flickered in her eyes. Mia had recently begun to ask about her father, a man she had never met, a phantom in their lives, and Ellen felt the weight of the absence heavy on her heart. "Mom, look at the strawberries!" Mia's small voice cut through her thoughts as she danced excitedly, her golden curls bouncing with each movement. At 6 years old, she embodied unfiltered joy, her laughter infectious as she tugged at her mother's hand and pointed at the bright red berries. "Yes, sweetheart, they look delicious," Ellen replied, forcing a smile even as her heart ached with the knowledge that the girl's curiosity about her father could lead to heartbreak. She knelt down, tucking a loose strand of hair behind Mia's ear, her fingers brushing against the soft skin of her daughter's cheek. "How about we pick some for our smoothie later?" Mia beamed, her eyes sparkling with delight. "Yes, and can we put whipped cream on top?" "Of course," Ellen chuckled, her heart swelling with warmth. "But only if you help me make it." As they selected the plumpest strawberries from the stall, Ellen felt a prick of discomfort as her scarf slipped from her shoulder. The fabric, a beloved gift from her grandmother, fluttered to the ground, unnoticed in the flurry of activity surrounding her. It wasn't until a tall figure approached, the sunlight glinting off his tailored suit, that she realized it was gone. "Excuse me, miss," the stranger said, his voice smooth like honey. Ellen looked up, startled, and found herself face to face with a man whose presence felt both commanding and disarming. His deep blue eyes were striking against the backdrop of his dark hair, and there was an easy confidence in the way he held himself. "I believe you've dropped this." Ellen's breath caught in her throat as he handed her the scarf, his fingers brushing against hers for a fleeting moment. A warmth spread through her, unexpected and electric. "Though, thank you," she managed, her cheeks flushing. "It looks like it means a lot to you," he observed, his gaze holding hers with an intensity that made her heart race. "It has character." "It was my grandmother's," Ellen replied, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear, trying to shake off the fluttering sensation in her stomach. She wasn't the type to feel starstruck, especially around men like him, men who seemed to move through life with ease and privilege. "I wear it often." "It suits you," he said, an easy smile curving his lips. "I am Ethan, by the way." "Ellen," she replied, feeling slightly flustered. "And this is Mia." She motioned to her daughter, who was still absorbed in selecting strawberries. "We were just picking up some fruit for smoothies." "Lovely," Ethan said, nodding toward Mia. "She is adorable. Do you come here often?" "Every couple of weeks," Ellen replied, attempting to maintain her composure. "It is one of her favorite outings, and mine too, I suppose." Ethan's gaze shifted to Mia, who was now holding up 2 large strawberries, her eyes wide with excitement. "Mia, those look like winners," he said, crouching to meet her eye level. "Did you pick those all by yourself?" "I have." Mia nodded vigorously, a proud smile lighting up her face. "Do you want to come to our house for smoothies? We can share." Ellen's heart raced, a mixture of embarrassment and amusement. "Mia, honey, we don't even know Mr. Ethan," she gently reminded her daughter, hoping to steer the conversation away from such a forward invitation. Ethan chuckled, his laughter warm and inviting. "I'd be honored, but I wouldn't want to impose." "Oh, you wouldn't be," Mia insisted. "You can help me make the whipped cream." Ellen felt a small laugh escape her lips, but inside, she was battling a mix of emotions. The spark between her and Ethan was undeniable, but she couldn't ignore the boundaries imposed upon her by her role as a mother. "She has a knack for persuasion," Ellen said, her apprehension creeping back as she tucked the scarf securely around her neck. "Kids tend to have that talent," Ethan replied, his gaze lingering on her longer than necessary. "They can be quite relentless." The moment hung heavily between them, the air thick with unspoken possibilities. Ellen's pulse quickened, and she felt a rush of warmth seep into her cheeks. There was something magnetic about him, and a allure that made her heart race and her thoughts scatter. "Do you live around here?" Ellen asked, attempting to redirect the conversation. Despite her better judgment, she found herself intrigued by him. It's just a few blocks away, Ethan said, a hint of casualness in his tone. I often work from home, so I come to the market whenever I can. It's a nice escape. Ellen nodded, her heart racing at the thought of him being so close. And what do you do? I am in finance, he replied, his voice steady but with a note of humility. I know, thrilling, right, but it allows me the flexibility to enjoy things like this. He motioned around them, taking in the vibrant atmosphere. Must be nice, Ellen said, her smile faltering slightly. I am just focusing on getting through the day with this little one. She gestured to Mia, who was now comparing strawberries to a nearby bunch of flowers, her playful spirit shining through. Single mom? Ethan asked gently, his tone shifting to something softer, more introspective. Ellen nodded, an unintentional heaviness settling in her chest. Yeah, it can be challenging sometimes. She glanced at Mia, who was blissfully unaware of the weight of that word. But it is also rewarding. Ethan's expression softened. I admire your dedication. He hesitated before continuing. It must get lonely, though. A pang of vulnerability shot through Ellen. Was he seeing through her carefully constructed facade? She swallowed hard, unsure of how to respond. There was a tender understanding in his eyes that made her feel exposed, yet strangely safe. Before she could answer, Mia's enthusiastic voice cut through the moment. Mom, can we get ice cream after this? Ellen smiled at her daughter, grateful for the distraction. Sure, we can have a little treat. Ice cream sounds fantastic, Ethan said, his eyes sparkling. What is your favorite flavor, Mia? Chocolate. Mia exclaimed, her face lighting up at the thought. An excellent choice, Ethan agreed, his gaze returning to Ellen. You must have your hands full, but what a beautiful way to spend the day. Ellen felt a rush of warmth at his compliment, but it also tugged at her insecurities. This man, with the world at his feet, was talking to her, a woman whose life was a whirlwind of responsibilities. She wondered fleetingly if he could ever really understand her life, the late-night tears, the constant struggle to balance it all. Mia suddenly tugged at Ellen's hand, pulling her away from her thoughts. Mom, look, I want some flowers too. All right, Ellen said, smiling at her daughter's enthusiasm. Let us find some pretty ones. As they stepped toward the flower stall, she stole a glance back at Ethan, who was watching them with an appreciative smile. There was something in his expression that made her pulse race again, a fleeting sense of connection that felt both thrilling and terrifying. Mia, do you remember the pink ones we saw last time? Ellen asked, trying to ground herself in the moment. Those were your favorite. Yes, and the yellow ones. Mia's voice rang out, filled with excitement as she rushed to point at a vibrant bouquet. Ethan moved closer, his presence warm beside her. You have quite the little flower enthusiast there, he said, grinning at Mia, who was now bouncing on her toes. Ellen felt herself smile back at him, her heart fluttering with an inexplicable mixture of attraction and apprehension. Could she allow herself to be drawn into this moment, or would the inevitable reality of her responsibilities pull her back? Ellen leaned down, searching through the array of colorful blooms, trying to distract herself from Ethan's presence beside her. The sweet fragrance of the flowers filled the air, mingling with the gap of tension that lingered like an electric pulse between them. Look, Mom, these pink ones, Mia exclaimed, her little finger clutching a bouquet of peonies. They bloomed brightly, their petals soft and inviting, the perfect representation of her daughter's radiant spirit. They were beautiful. Sweetheart, Ellen said, her heart swelling with warmth as Mia presented them to her like a trophy. Do you think they'll all go well with your strawberry smoothie? Definitely. Mia giggled. They were so pretty. She paused, her brow furrowing as a new thought struck her. But can we really put them in a smoothie? Won't they taste bad? Ellen chuckled, ruffling Mia's curls affectionately. We can use them for decoration, not in the smoothie itself. Just imagine how fancy it will look. Fancy. Mia squealed, her excitement infectious as she bounced on her feet, the flowers almost slipping from her grasp. Ellen's heart soared, soothed by the innocence of childhood dreams and the comforting presence of her daughter. Meanwhile, Ethan watched them with a soft smile, a warmth in his expression that made Ellen's stomach flutter. You're raising a smart one there, he remarked, his voice slow and rich. I am impressed by how she thinks through things. Ellen turned to him, surprised by the compliment. Thank you, she said, her cheeks warming slightly. She keeps me on my toes. I can imagine, he replied, his eyes sparkling with sincerity. It is not easy, is it, being a single parent? The question hung in the air, heavy with unspoken understanding. Ellen hesitated, searching for the right words as vulnerability washed over her. Some days are better than others. It is a different kind of busy, she admitted. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. She is my light. Ethan nodded thoughtfully, his gaze fixed on Mia, who was now trying to negotiate the price for the peonies, her tiny voice muffled in earnest conversation with the vendor. It must be tough at times, though. I admire your strength. Strength? Ellen scoffed lightly. I often feel more like I am just barely holding it together. She glanced at him, unsure why she was sharing so openly. I have my moments of doubt, you know. Of course, he said gently, his blue eyes steady and understanding. You are human, it is only natural. Mia returned to Ellen's side, triumph sparkling in her eyes, holding out her flowers. Mom, I want these, can we get them, please? Ellen smiled, recognizing the determined look on her daughter's face. All right, sweetheart, let us get them. She turned to the vendor, who was wrapping the flowers in paper. As she reached for her purse, Ethan leaned in slightly, lowering his voice. Here, let me take care of that, he offered, pulling out his wallet. Ellen's heart raced, a mix of appreciation and confusion flooding her. Though, no, you don't have to do that, she insisted, feeling her cheeks heat further. It is just flowers. I insist, Ethan said, his gaze lingering on her with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. Consider it a small gesture, thank you for sharing your time with us today. Mia clapped her hands in delight, oblivious to the tension hanging in the air. Yea, thank you, Mr. Ethan. Ellen bit her lip, torn between accepting his kindness and the nagging feeling that it was crossing a line she wasn't sure if she was ready to step over. It is really too generous of you, she said, trying to sound firm. It's just a good deed, Ellen, he replied, his smile genuine. No strings attached. As he handed the vendor cash, Ellen felt a flutter of something new, a mix of admiration and confusion. She had spent years shielding herself from potential heartache after her marriage fell apart. But here was this charming man, stirring emotions she thought she had buried. Thank you, Ellen said softly, accepting the flowers from the vendor when he handed them to her. She glanced at Mia, who was busy smelling the peonies, a wide smile plastered on her face. You've made her day. Ethan shrugged, a hint of playful mischief in his eyes. It was worth it. You both deserve to have a little beauty in your lives. As they stepped away from the flower stall, Ellen couldn't shake the feeling of his gaze on her. She felt both grateful and slightly exposed, as if he could see through her layers of hesitation. So, what are you going to do with your day now? She asked, redirecting the conversation as they walked. I was heading to my place to catch up on some work, he replied, his tone casual. But now I think I'll be thinking about smoothies and flowers instead. Exciting plans, huh? Ellen teased slightly, trying to ease the pressure building between them. Ethan laughed, a rich sound that made her smile instinctively. You'd be surprised how thrilling finance can be, especially when you're redoing it from home. Mia was now tugging at Ellen's hand again. Mom, can we get ice cream now, please? Of course, darling, Ellen replied, her heart warming at Mia's enthusiasm. Let us go find that ice cream stand. As they walked, Ethan fell into step beside her, the conversation flowing easily despite the undercurrents of tension threading through their exchanges. What is your favorite flavor? He asked, glancing sideways at her. Definitely chocolate, Ellen confessed, her cheeks warming at the admission. I have a sweet tooth. Good choice, Ethan said, nodding approvingly. How about we both order the same thing? It is only fair we share the experience. Ellen chuckled, surprised by his playful confidence. That sounds like a plan. Mia suddenly interjected, her excitement bubbling over. Can we get sprinkles? I love sprinkles. Sprinkles it is, Ellen said, her heart swelling with affection for her daughter. She could see Ethan's gaze drift to Mia, admiration etched on his features. As they approached the ice cream stand, the air was thick with the sweet, sugary scent that wafted through the market. Ellen felt a surge of warmth as Ethan leaned forward, placing their orders with charm and ease, bantering with the vendor. 2 chocolate cones with a mountain of sprinkles, he said, turning to Ellen with a grin. You cannot have a proper ice cream experience without the sprinkles, right? Ellen laughed, her heart fluttering as she watched him interact. You might just be right about that, she replied, feeling a sense of ease wash over her. When they received their cones, both of them towering with sprinkles, Mia held hers up in triumph. Look, Mom, it is a masterpiece. Ellen couldn't help but smile, feeling the warmth of the moment envelop her. It truly is, you are an artist, my love. As they turned to find a place to sit, Ellen felt Ethan brush against her arm, a fleeting touch that sent a shiver down her spine. Their eyes met for a moment, and she could feel the chemistry crackle between them like static electricity. "What do you say we find a spot over there?" Ethan suggested, pointing toward a nearby bench. "It'll be perfect for our ice cream feast." Ellen nodded, trying to ground herself. "Sure, that sounds nice." But even as the words left her lips, a small voice in her head questioned what she was doing. Would this lead to more than just ice cream and laughter? As they settled onto the bench, Mia sat between them, her laughter ringing out like music. Ellen couldn't help but glance at Ethan, who was watching her with that same warm, intense look. It felt too intimate for a mere ice cream outing. "Thanks for today, Ethan," Ellen said, her voice slightly breathless. "It has been really nice." He smiled, his expression genuine, and Ellen felt her heart skip a beat. "It has been my pleasure, Ellen. I didn't expect to enjoy my day this much." The tension thickened as their gazes held, an unspoken connection swirling around them. Ellen felt vulnerable and exhilarated, an intoxicating whirlwind of emotions. Could she allow herself to feel this way? "Mom, are you going to eat your ice cream, or just stare at Mr. Ethan?" Mia piped up, breaking the moment and causing Ellen to laugh, both relieved and embarrassed. "Right, let us dig in," she said, taking a big bite of her chocolate cone, the sweetness melting in her mouth. As Mia giggled and licked at her own cone, Ellen felt the warmth of Ethan's gaze still resting on her. Perhaps this day was just the beginning of something new, something she hadn't dared to hope for. But even as she enjoyed the moment, Ellen felt the whisper of her doubts. Could she really open herself up to someone like Ethan? Or was she destined to protect her heart, to keep it safely hidden away for the sake of her daughter? Ellen took another bite of her ice cream, the rich chocolate swirling with sprinkles melting against her tongue. It was a blissful distraction from the warmth of Ethan's gaze, which felt like a gentle caress, lingering on her. She stole a look at him, finding that he was already watching her, an amused smile playing on his lips. "What?" she asked, her voice a mix of teasing and curiosity. "Just wondering how you can still look so graceful while devouring ice cream," he replied, his tone light yet sincere. "Most people end up wearing it rather than enjoying it." Ellen laughed, a sound that felt like music to her own ears. "Trust me, it is a skill developed over many years. I've had my fair share of ice cream disasters." She glanced at Mia, who was now in an enthusiastic race to finish her cone, sprinkles dancing down her cheeks like confetti. "I've learned to keep it contained." "So you're saying there is a chance I might witness one of your infamous ice cream disasters today?" Ethan's eyes twinkled with mischief, and Ellen felt her cheeks flush at the playful implication. "Only if Mia gets too excited about her toppings," she said, nudging her daughter gently. "Look at her go, she is like a sprinkles tornado." Mia giggled, her eyes wide with pure joy as she licked the melting ice cream. "I love sprinkles, Mom, they make everything better." Ellen couldn't help but smile at Mia's infectious enthusiasm. "They do, don't they? Just like a little unexpected company," she added, glancing at Ethan, who raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Is that a compliment, Ellen?" he asked lightly, his gaze steady. He leaned a little closer, enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him, and it sent a delightful shiver down her spine. "Maybe it is," she replied, her breath catching slightly in her throat. The atmosphere around them started to shift, the playful banter morphing into something deeper, more leaden with untold possibilities. Mia, blissfully unaware of the shifting dynamic, finished her cone and clapped her hands together. "Can we go to the playground now? Please, I want to swing." "All right, but only if you help me clean up first," Ellen said, glancing at the tiny bits of ice cream that had dripped onto her lap. "No fun until the mess is gone." "Okay," Mia exclaimed, her enthusiasm undeterred. She hopped off the bench, ready for action. As they gathered the remnants of their ice cream, Ellen wiping her hands and Mia bouncing with excitement, the tension between Ellen and Ethan lingered. She caught his gaze again, and this time it felt heavier, charged with an unspoken connection that both thrilled and scared her. "Do you mind if I join you?" Ethan asked, breaking the moment. "I'd love to see the playground through Mia's eyes." Ellen hesitated, her heart racing. She thought about the implications of inviting him into her world, even just for a brief moment. There was a gentle pull, a longing aside from the worry that circled like a cloud overhead. "I wouldn't want to impose on your day," she said softly, trying to gauge his intentions. "Trust me, Ellen, you're not imposing," he said, his tone earnest. "I genuinely want to spend more time with you and Mia. Besides, it'll be fun." His smile was disarming, and despite the unease in her stomach, she found herself nodding. "Okay, then, let us go, but keep up," she challenged, her heart lifting at the thought of allowing him into their little world, even for just a moment. As they headed toward the playground, Mia charged ahead, her laughter echoing in the air. Ellen felt Ethan's presence beside her, a steady support that eased her worries. "You have a remarkable daughter," he said, his voice low as they walked. "Thank you," she replied, glancing sideways at him. "She asks me everything. Some days, I wonder if I am doing enough for her, you know?" "I can't imagine how challenging it must be," he said. "But you are doing incredibly well." She is happy, and that speaks volumes about you as a mother. His words did something inside her, a warmth that chased away a bit of the doubt that clung to her heart. "I try my best," she said, her voice vulnerable. "But I can't help but feel like I am just treading water sometimes." Ethan slowed his pace, meeting her gaze directly. "You are stronger than you think, Ellen. Anyone can see that. You are raising a kind, vibrant little girl, and that's no small feat." Ellen felt the weight of his compliments settle over her, a soothing balm against the insecurities that often gnawed at her. "It helps to hear that," she admitted, her eyes locking onto his. "Sometimes I think I am just trying to survive the day." "He shouldn't have to feel like that," he said softly. "It is okay to lean on others too, accept help when it is offered." She nodded, the sincerity in his voice pulling her in even deeper. Just then, May called out from the swings, her voice bright and eager. "Mom, Mr. Ethan, come watch me swing." "See, you have your little cheerleader," Ethan said, his eyes twinkling as they reached the playground. "You're doing great." With a burst of enthusiasm, Ellen joined Mia at the swings, pushing her gently as laughter filled the air. Ethan stood nearby, his presence a comforting anchor as he watched the scene unfold. "Higher, Mom, higher." Mia squealed, her laughter mingling with the sound of the swings creaking. Ellen pushed harder, feeling a sense of bliss wash over her. The sunlight danced around them, casting a golden glow on everything it touched. In that moment, she felt the weight of her worries lift ever so slightly, the warmth of connection mingling with the laughter of her daughter. Ethan joined her, taking a seat on the swing next to Mia. "I could get used to this," he said, a playful grin on his face. "It's nice to step away from the hustle for a little while." "I can agree with that," Ellen replied, her heart racing as she glanced at him. "I sometimes forget how important it is to have a little fun." "Life is too short to be serious all the time," Ethan said, his eyes locked onto hers. "You've got to embrace the little moments." Ellen felt the air between them thickening again, the chemistry simmering just below the surface. She was acutely aware of how close they were, how their laughter and shared moments were weaving a delicate tapestry of connection. "You're right," she said softly, her heart racing. "These moments are what life is all about." Mia swung higher, her laughter ringing out like a melody. "Look at me, Mom," she called out, joy radiating from her. Ellen felt a swell of pride, knowing she was doing something right. "You are amazing, sweetheart," she exclaimed. But as she turned back to Ethan, she found him gazing at her intently. "You really are remarkable, Ellen," he said quietly, the sincerity in his voice making her heart flutter. "I admire how you live for those moments with her." "Thank you," she replied, her heart racing for a different reason now. "I just want to give her the best of everything." "And you are," he said, leaning slightly closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "You are giving her love, laughter, and a memory she'll cherish for a lifetime." Ellen felt vulnerable, exposed under the weight of his words. There was an intensity in his gaze that made her pulse quicken, thrilling and terrifying all at once. I never expected to encounter someone like you today," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "Someone like me?" Ethan echoed, his voice low and inviting. "What does that mean?" "Someone who feels genuine and kind amid this chaotic life," she said, her heart pounding. "I've learned to be cautious." "I understand," he replied, his tone sincere. "But perhaps sometimes, opening up is where the beauty lies." Before she could respond, May called out again, her excitement spilling over. "Mom, Mr. Ethan, look what I can do." She leaped off the swing and ran to the jungle gym, her laughter echoing through the playground. Ellen watched her daughter, caught in the intoxicating whirlwind of emotions that swirled around her. In that moment, she felt torn. A part of her wanted to lean into the connection with Ethan, to explore the potential of what was blooming between them. But another part craved the safety of her familiar routine, the protective barrier she had built around her heart. "Mia's right," Ethan said, breaking her reverie. "Children have an uncanny ability to remind us of what is important. They teach us to embrace spontaneity." "Yes, they do," Ellen agreed, her heart still racing. "But that spontaneity can also be scary. I've been burned before." "I get that," Ethan said, his voice gentle but firm. "But you deserve to feel seen and appreciated. You shouldn't have to carry that burden alone." There was again the sincerity in his words that unraveled a little more of her resolve. Ellen's heart raced as she watched me navigate the jungle gym, her daughter's laughter ringing out like a melody that wrapped around them both. The sun bathed the playground in a warm glow, and for a moment Ellen allowed her worries to drift away, focusing on the joy radiating from Mia. But the underlying tension between her and Ethan, lingering like the sweet scent of ice cream, was impossible to ignore. "Watch me, Mom." Mia called out, her voice bubbling with excitement as she climbed higher on the jungle gym. "I see you, sweetheart, be careful." Ellen replied, her voice tinged with both pride and concern. Ethan leaned back on the swing, a relaxed smile on his face. "She is fearless," he remarked, his eyes following Mia's every move. "You must be so proud." "I am," Ellen said, her heart swelling as she watched her daughter swing her legs joyfully over the bar. "But it can be nerve-wracking sometimes. I worry about how adventurous she is. She is testing her limits, figuring out the world," Ethan said, his gaze still fixed on Mia. "It is a beautiful thing, and you're there to catch her if she falls." Ellen felt a warmth spread through her. "Thanks, but sometimes I wish I could just catch my breath," she admitted, glancing at him. "I am not sure how to balance being her cheerleader and keeping her safe." "Finding that balance is tough," he agreed, turning his attention to her. "But you're doing a great job. Just by being here, she knows she is your support." Their eyes locked for a lingering moment, the silence around them thickening with unspoken possibilities. Ellen's heart raced as she pondered the depth of his understanding. She hadn't let anyone in for so long, and yet here was Ethan, effortlessly connecting with both her and Mia. "I know I am a bit of a worrywart," Ellen said, breaking the silence. "It is just that Ivy had to be both mom and dad for Mia, and sometimes it is overwhelming." Ethan shifted closer in his swing, a thoughtful expression on his face. "You're doing the work of two people, Ellen. That comes with its fair share of challenges, but it is also what makes you so strong." She smiled, feeling a flutter of warmth at his words. "I try, but I often wonder if I am doing enough," she admitted, her vulnerability spilling out. "Especially with Mia asking about her father more lately." Ethan's expression softened, his voice low and sincere. "That is a tough situation. Kids always want to know where they come from. It is natural for them. But it is not something I can give her," Ellen said, her heart aching at the thought. "I really don't know how to explain it without hurting her." Ethan reached out, his hand brushing against her arm, a gentle gesture that sent his shiver through her. "It is okay. You'll navigate that when the time comes. Just remember that you're the one who shapes her world. She looks up to you." Ellen felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. "You really think so?" She swallowed hard, emotion swirling within her. It was a weight she had carried alone for so long. "I know so," he replied firmly, his gaze unwavering. "You are her everything. You provide love, laughter, and a home. That is what matters most to her." As she processed his words, Mia called out again from the jungle gym, her tiny voice cutting through the moment. "Mom, come push me on the swings." "On my way." Ellen responded, diverting her focus back to Mia, who was bouncing with excitement. She stood up, brushing off her jeans, but as she turned, she felt Ethan's presence right behind her, a soothing warmth at her back. "Let us go make her day," he said, his tone lightening the atmosphere as they approached Mia together. "Do you want to swing first or should I?" Ellen asked, nudging Ethan playfully. "Let me do the honors," he replied, stepping into position behind the swing. "Mia, hold on tight. Here we go." Ellen watched as Ethan pushed Mia higher, her delighted squeals filling the air. The sight warmed her heart, seeing someone embrace the joy of childhood alongside her daughter. Yeah, there was a flicker of something deeper stirring within her, a mixture of gratitude and undeniable attraction. "You're good at this," Mia called out, her laughter infectious as she soared through the air. "Thanks, I am just getting started," Ethan replied, his eyes sparkling with joy. He shot Ellen a sidelong glance, a conspiratorial smile on his face. "But don't you think I'll let you off the hook that easily? Mia needs to have some fun with her mom too." Ellen teased, crossing her arms playfully. "Oh, I see how it is." Ethan laughed, slowing down the swing. "You want to take over, huh? All right, let us see what you've got." Ellen stepped forward, taking over as Ethan stepped back. "All right, Mia, hold tight," she called out, pushing her daughter gently. As she watched Mia's joy light up her face, she felt a swell of pride. It was moments like this that made all the struggles worthwhile. "You're the best," Mia exclaimed, swinging higher. Ellen's heart swelled with warmth, the laughter echoing around them like a balm to her worries. Ethan watched them, his expression softening as he leaned against the nearby structure. "You're a natural," he said, admiration lacing his tone. "The way you connect with her is inspiring." "Thanks," Ellen replied, her cheeks warming. "It is all part of the job, I guess." She glanced over her shoulder, catching Ethan's gaze once more, and the air felt electric between them. "Not everyone can make it look so effortless," he said, his voice steady and sincere. "You truly have a gift." Ellen felt herself flush under his steady gaze. "You really know how to make a girl blush," she replied, attempting to deflect the intensity of the moment with humor. "I am just speaking the truth," he said simply, his eyes twinkling with mischief. "And if anyone can handle the chaos of motherhood, it is you." As Miss swung back and forth, her laughter filled the air, Ellen turned her attention back to her daughter, pushing her gently. The warmth of Ethan's gaze lingered, igniting butterflies in her stomach. The atmosphere seemed charged, and Ellen felt a magnetic pull toward Ethan, a yearning that made her heart race. "What about you?" she finally asked, breaking the spell. "Do you have any family?" Ethan's expression shifted slightly, turning introspective. "I do, but they're scattered all over. It is complicated." Ellen nodded, sensing the weight behind his words. "I understand. Family dynamics can be tricky." "Yeah," he said, his voice thoughtful. "I guess I've always focused on my career, but it is nice to step back and enjoy moments like these." "It is," Ellen agreed, her heart aching a little for the connection he had yet to fully embrace. "Sometimes we forget to take a breath." "Exactly," Ethan said, his gaze unwavering. "It is easy to get caught up in life's demands, but days like this remind me of the little joys." She smiled, appreciating how easy it felt to talk to him. "I am glad we met today. I didn't expect this," she admitted, her voice soft. "And neither did I," Ethan replied, his eyes holding hers with an intensity that made her pulse race. "But I am grateful for it." Just then, Mia called out again, her excitement bubbling over. "Look, I am going to try the sleigh." She dashed toward it, leaving Ellen and Ethan standing together, the moment between them thick with unspoken tension. Ellen took a deep breath, aware of the delicate balance of emotion swirling within her. "You know, I don't usually let people in like this," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan met her gaze, his expression open and understanding. "You don't have to rush if you're not ready, Ellen, but I want you to feel comfortable. You deserve to be happy." His sincerity felt like a balm to her soul, but it also frightened her. "It is just my past makes me hesitant. I am afraid of getting hurt again." "I get that," he replied softly, stepping closer. "But it is worth taking a chance, even if it is just to enjoy this moment." "I know," Ellen whispered, her heart racing in her chest. "It is just hard to shake off the doubts." "Mia is so lucky to have you," he said, his voice low and reassuring. "Whatever happened before doesn't define your future." As she searched his eyes, Ellen felt a flicker of hope pierce through her uncertainties. "Thank you for being so understanding," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "Always," Ethan replied softly, his gaze never wavering. "I am here." Just then, Mia returned, her face flushed with excitement. "Mom, Mr. Ethan, I went down the slide super fast." Ellen laughed, feeling the weight of her worries lift even more. "That sounds like so much fun."